Okay, this is day 20, part two. Um, so, if people remember correctly, this story has always been between New York and Washington, D.C. New York and Washington, D.C. I started there when I was kind of doing my field work when I came down from Canada. Jason did a lot of great work on this with Trish. A little bit in Boston, a little bit of the story has been in Boston, but it's mainly been about D.C., the Awans, as a way of getting back to New York. This never was about just going after Washington, D.C. And the reason why I say that is if you don't eventually get to the Clinton Foundation where all the kind of the moves are being made, you really don't, you haven't really cleaned up anything. You're on your way. You're cleaning the doorstep on the outside, but you're not going into the house and actually arresting the person involved. So you're maybe arresting the doorman. So the key to this thing always has been, as I said from the very beginning, Eric Braverman, New York, pay to play, Wall Street, going to Petraeus's headquarters and so forth. That's where this all emanates from, Council on Foreign Relations, etc. The Awans were important as a stepping stone. And everything along this way in this investigation has been a stepping stone. Everybody's saying, you just beat Chris Gowan, you just beat the Clinton's best attorney. He's crumbling. You started on August 26th in first motion. He's already crumbling on the 17th of November. This isn't about beating Chris Gowan. This isn't about them copping a plea on the 17th. That is just the Awans opening the door, the spy ring in Congress, which opens the door to the DNC. The DNC, the way this works is Podesta Group basically manages these little clubhouses, and these are spy clubhouses. So the DNC is just the spy clubhouse for the cozy bears. The cozy bears are the Awans. They're cozy because they're right next to the Capitol. They're about 3 or 4 blocks from the Capitol. Actually, they're in the Capitol. They're using Imran's ID to run in and out of the Capitol anytime they want. But mainly the spy clubhouse is the DNC. But the important other spy house to identify was this Fusion GPS. That's why I didn't stop here with the Awans. Okay, Chris Gowan, that's a part of history now. But now this is the big one, Glenn Simpson, because this is the one that's hiring the Russian spies. This is paperclip maybe 3. This is paperclip 2. These are the folks with CrowdStrike that are bringing in the Russian spies, okay, the Ukrainian spies, all the spies from the former Soviet Union, right? That's Fusion GPS. Here's the ones where in Centreville, Maryland, they've got their little clubhouse over here. This is the next step. We got to get to this. Then you get to Podesta and Associates there. That Podesta and Associates, then you get back to the clubhouse here for the Pinch Bears, or it's going to be the Fancy Bears because they're New York, whatever they are, Fancy Dukes, or whatever goofy name they give their little spying group. That's where it started, basically, with this infiltration. They came into Brooklyn, they infiltrated into city government, then they infiltrated into state government, then they infiltrated into Washington, D.C. from there. So this whole thing started in New York, started with the SEIU bankers, Amalgamated Bank, etc. That's why Hillary moved to New York, was to glom on to this little power center that was here as far as putting slugs into the government. Slugs are 6 to 8 people that are your spy infiltrator. So you put a slug into the Attorney General's office, you put a slug in Department of Transportation, etc. And you dot all the different government agencies, and then you create a successful infiltration. Same thing with the Awans down here. Same thing with the Farouk Awan in city government down here. They went for the city of D.C., mayor's office, and then they went for the state of D.C., the district of D.C., then they went and got Congress and the State Department. Same exact strategy here. So you got 3 or 4 different clubhouses. I think there's going to be a total of 8. The 8 spy ring teams. They're going to be around the world, but New York and Washington are the 2 most important ones. I think it's Fancy Bears up here, and I think it's Cozy Bears down here. Now, this is the beauty of the CNN reports, and CrowdStrike for that matter. It was Fancy Bears that broke in. It was Cozy Bears that broke in. They just are not saying it's the Awans and the Fusion GPS. That's all they're not saying. And it could be a subset of Fusion GPS. I don't know exactly how Fusion GPS has been structured because I've been mainly focusing on the Awans. But they could be exactly right. Yes, they came in and they stole the information. The Russians did, yes, because all these people on this team for the Fancy Bears are Russian. There's no question about that. They came in from another location outside of Washington, D.C. You're damn right they did. It came in from Brooklyn, New York. So there is a half truth here to what the CNN story is. They're just not telling the whole truth. This is why they hate Bill Binney, because Bill Binney says there's no way somebody's dialing in over the public internet and getting that kind of bandwidth. The argument, the reason why the CNN argument is so stupid about these data transfers, these hourly data transfers, and Bill Binney's going to expose this, is literally they're trying to say I can put 5 pounds of sand in a 1 pound bag. You can't put 5 pounds of sand in a 1 pound bag. It's a bandwidth issue. If you have a 1 pound bag, bandwidth pipe, you're not putting 5 pounds of sand through it. It's not going to happen. It's just, the data rates from public internet don't support it. You need that local connection, local leased line, at least the leased line speed. I'm not even sure you can get there with leased line, but I think you can. And that's what they were doing. There was every hour there was a login. They made up the Sacha Fall story. They gave a Sacha Fall story for the 10th, saying there, or July 8th, that there was this big data transfer all of a sudden at once. That explains how all the data got up here. That's a cover story. Data was going every hour. Data was coming off the iConstituent system over at Congress from the DNC spy clubhouse. It was coming out of the DNC NGP van system, out of that clubhouse, and it was going to the Hillary for America clubhouse up here every hour. The 5,100 illegal logins are going to be every hour. It gives you the periodicity of how often they swept for data. It's going to be up here. Now we needed that report from Donna Brazil to get through this bridge to here, to get to Hillary for America. We needed the first bridge to get from the Capitol building over to the DNC. The DNC takes us over downtown, over on K Street or Connecticut Avenue. Then we get to Podesta Group over there on G Street. Now we got Washington, D.C. covered. The next key step was linking this back. We linked up to Uranium 1. We got all that, but we needed this critical step to get to Hillary for America, and that was from that August 26th agreement. That's why it's so important. Now, everyone's saying, why didn't you name the Clinton Foundation? Why didn't you name the Clinton Foundation? The first thing that I did when I met Charles Ortel is I said, I love your work on Unitate. Unitate is the half-weight and quarter-weight drug program that Ira Magaziner ran for the Clinton Foundation. That was the first thing I said to Charles. You can ask Charles when I met him for the first time. I said, this is going to be the answer in the end with Braverman. Braverman was the guy who said, I'm not going to be a part of any program where you give a half-weight or quarter-weight drugs to, and that was the first big blow up. But the second big blow up was finding about the uranium and then the drugs and the uranium. I didn't know it was uranium at that time. I just knew it was a pay to play. Was with Morocco was the very large reason, the $28 million. But I didn't realize at that time it was uranium and drugs. Drugs is going to be why he leaves the foundation. The first big blow up happens with Ira Magaziner on Unitate. The second big blow up happens when he finds out about the Morocco and then maybe Uranium 1. Still don't know on that second one. This story will go back to Braverman. We're just not quite there yet. We're almost there. We've made it to New York. Now we just have to go from Brooklyn downtown to Avenue of the Americas. We're getting close to the Clinton Foundation. This is the part where Charles Ortel is going to play such an important role. But we're getting close. We had to do a little leapfrogging down here. And now we're right knocking on the door. People said, well, why didn't you name the Clinton Foundation to begin with? Well, you don't want to end up dead in these things. You kind of want to work your way up the ladder and then take on the Clinton Foundation at the last part. I think now that Chris